Something that I've always found really funny about the 99 Classics is that when they were released, they were not a classic. And just by putting it out there and sort of manifesting it, oddly enough, they have become a classic, which is full of irony. Meze has a difficult task on their hands. This is one of the most beloved audiophile headphones of the past decade, and to make enough changes to the 99 Classic without losing its core audience, but making good enough changes to attract a new audience and good enough changes to be worthy of the original, that's a hard task to do. And I actually think that they've done this quite well. I think that this is a subtle nudge in the right direction, and I think that's exactly what it needed. Meze was kind enough to send this out for a review. I'm not being paid or asked to say anything good or bad, but you can find affiliate links to everything I talk about down below. Do not feel obligated to use those, but I do appreciate it if you do. Thanks. Now, luckily, the build of these is mostly the same except for a couple quality of life improvements. One of them is a larger internal diameter for the ear pads. Another is the cable socket entry is actually a little bit bigger than before, allowing for more aftermarket cables. And right next to that, you can actually see that they've actually added a bass port now, which will have interesting effects on bass that we'll talk about in a second. A couple more things is that this does come with a carry case. It comes with a USB-C adapter for the cable, which is a nice addition. And this does come with tuning filters, which we'll talk about as a secondary option for tuning on this headphone. And overall, luckily, they've nailed the original kind of OG design so well that not making changes isn't actually that much of a bad thing. They kind of have this vintage high quality feel to it, which is the inspiration for the editing choices that I made on this video. Actually, these changes are subtle and good. The one thing I would have liked to have seen is maybe a newer updated color. I don't know if they're going to come out with those, but yeah, it would have been cool to see a slightly different colorway than before. But other than that, I think it's great, subtle, small changes. To talk about sound, I actually mostly want to compare this to the original, and luckily they've provided some graphs that they measured for these headphones that kind of help explain some of the differences. And then we'll kind of talk about my opinion of this headphone. So the blue line is the original, the pink line is the V2, which is this, and then the green line is the V2 with the acoustic filters. Now you can see there's a lot of adherence here, and largely they're similar. Like I said, they have a lot of similarity, but with some improvements. Some really notable areas to me are specifically the bass. This still has a lot of bass kick. It's a very punchy, fast, impactful sounding headphone. And I really like that about the original, and I really like that about this one. One area in the mid bass specifically between about 100 hertz and about 300 hertz is you can see there's a secondary bump that exists on the OG that doesn't really exist on the 99 V2. This specifically a lot of times can cause a bloated or boxy sounding bass like the original sort of had. That was one of the downsides, was it didn't really have a super linear bass line where started hitting really hard almost out of nowhere when you would transition from the lower mids to the mid bass. The V2 actually does a great job of fixing this issue, being a much more linear line where it doesn't seem as abrupt, but it also does what I think is going to appeal to a lot of audiophiles, is clean up that bass bleed a little bit and that boxiness a lot. And this provides a higher fidelity bass experience while maintaining still a lot of punch and a lot of bass quantity that people still want. So personally, I think this is a great move. Another area for difference here is between 1K and 3K, where you see a bit of a rise up, and that's going to be a little bit more present there than on the original. And this kind of depends on your preference of what you like. Some people are really sensitive there because of it's kind of the ear gain region. So I think some people might like this change, some people may not, but it's there. And then after 4K, you have a lot of adherence between the OG and the V2, which is good if you're into the sound signature that it offers. And that sound signature, if you can't tell by the graph, is a little bit V-shaped. Now, I think that there's two ways to do V-shaped sound. I think that Meze is probably one of the best brands at it. Even their super high-end headphones like the Empyrean V2 is, in my opinion, V-shaped, but it's like one of the best headphones ever. The two ways to do V-shape is bad and good. And there's a fun way where things can still sound really vivid and alive and really impactful and have a lot of weight to them, which is the way that this is doing it. And then there's the kind of sloppy, too bright and too much bass version that a lot of other headphones do. And I think one of the litmus tests for me for this is how it handles mid-range. And what I look for on a V-shape headphone to be good is that it can still isolate mid-range and sound really, really awesome when the music is asking you to do that. I can't pronounce the song, but if you're listening to this song that I'm showing you right now, this sounds beautiful on this headphone. It just really shines. And you'll also notice that it's got a very focused mid-range for the song. And because that, it more helps you isolate the vocalist in a V-shaped headphone. To me, I'm looking for that vocalist to still be able to pop and stand out for music that is mixed to sound that way. And then music that is mixed to have more influence from other instruments. That's where I think that some of the benefits of V-shape can come from. I think that the bass capability on this for classic rock, for example, is amazing. It really carries the weight of a lot of classic rock and the rhythm of a lot of classic rock in a different way than some more neutral headphones do, for example. In fact, if you're a fan of classic rock, but want sort of like newer generation music, Bad Company and Hailstorm actually did a collaboration for the cover of Shooting Star, and it's really fantastic. It's super good. And if you've never heard of Hailstorm, I would highly recommend checking out the album A Strange Case Of. It's incredible. If you're looking for a bit more fun bass, there's a song called Unhinged from Meze that just came out as well. That's a bit more dynamic and punchy for bass and stands out a lot. And on a headphone like this, it's just a lot of fun to listen to. So Treble, this is where the benefit of the tuning filters really comes in if you like or dislike the existing state of the 99 Classics. There isn't a whole lot different here for Treble. It more just changes how you interact with the overall headphone because it does lean a little bit brighter overall because of that slight reduction in bass. So it comes across a bit more clinical than the original does, until you put on the tuning filters, which, as you can see by the graphs, dampen that a lot. And these tuning filters do a good job of mostly only really affecting after about 5K while leaving everything else pretty much the same. So you can give yourself a darker, warmer, slightly muffled experience if you're just into not hearing a lot of treble, or you can just take those out and listen to the more unbridled nature of this headphone as a whole. I think for some people, similar to the original, it still might be a little bit too much treble, and then for some people it's going to be basically perfect. And I think in some cases for the existing fans of the 99 Classic, they might even be happy that this hasn't changed much at all. Now for sound staging, they haven't changed a lot. This still kind of happens in 3 blobs where it's like right side, left side, and center. It's not quite as dynamic and as rangy as some of their higher end systems are, but it's also, I think, the lowest cost headphone that they currently make, so it's not going to perform as well in every category. That being said, to be completely honest, I think this is my favorite dynamic driver headphone from Meze, and then the things that I like more are all of their planars. So I think that what they're doing for their tuning for this is actually really good. Now, compared to other things on the market, this has a different intention to those. This is not as neutral as the new HDB 630, for example, but that's not really the point. And you can't really get the bass quality that exists on this headphone out of the HDB. This headphone just has an awesome ability to have a really impactful and punchy bass with some surprising precision to it. In conclusion, these are some really nice adjustments to the sound. I think these small subtle changes are definitely the way to go. I think this is definitely the way to go compared to wholesale changing the headphone into something that's not even recognizable to the original. This is definitely not the most neutral of what Meze has to offer, and I actually think that's okay. I think that purpose-built headphones like this that are just made for a certain type of listener are really appealing. I think neutral headphones are appealing to a certain type. I think V-shape and bright and dark, all those have different audiences, and I think it's fine for them all to exist. It's purpose-built and it does it well. Now, the difference in price, which I actually personally would jump on, I think it's worth the delta, is about $50. So the original one is about 300 and something, 310, I think. And this is going to MSRP at $350. If you're just buying it because you don't have one, this is definitely worth the extra $50 in my opinion. If you have the original and it still works and functions well and you don't have any problems with it, I don't see any reason to upgrade to this necessarily. It's more just if you're in the market for this type of thing, this is the one I would buy over the original. All right, see ya.